Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Channing McLeod from Temper Times. It's been a while. Of course, the last video you would have seen would be of me in my old apartment because I moved again. So, if you watch the 24-hour live stream, I've moved from there since then. So I just wanted to make a video of Iron Lung. I haven't done any movie reviews. I've done book reviews, so I felt like, my first one would be from someone that I've kind of looked up to in a way for several years. Almost been 10 years now for me. So I went to see Iron Lung on Saturday, and it was great. It was very confusing for some people, and I would say I was definitely confused myself on some accounts, especially since I didn't watch a lot of his gameplay through it, because at the time when he released it, I wasn't a huge fan of that kind of specific, like, graphic games, like whatever you want to call them. So I also had no idea what they're about. But turns out it's actually really interesting. It's about an unknown player, the game, I mean, not the movie, that is in this submarine called the Iron Lung, and they're there to take photographs of this blood ocean from a moon that appeared after an incident called the Quiet Rapture, where a bunch of stars and planets just disappeared. And there turns out to be some sort of monster that lives in this blood ocean. And when the first release came out, it's very, what would you call it, vague? Like, more vague than the movie, right? It basically just has you take pictures and then eventually find the monster and the monster kills you. There you go, you're done. But then they updated it to where they're giving you a little more background, like how there's the whole thing with, like, the COI, which I honestly don't remember what that stands for. And and Eden, and there's two groups. COI is that organization that has the Iron Lung operating because they want to discover more, whereas Eden is the organization that has the colony on Mars, if I remember correctly. And there's a whole thing with them, and they don't like each other. And at one point, some people from Eden went and attacked this station called Filament Station, which made it inhabitable or unhabitable. And there's a whole thing with Eden having the last living trees as well. But that's basically all I know, and that's kind of what you only know when you watch the movie. Like, that's pretty much, and that might even be more information than you're told in the movie when it regards exposition. Because in the movie, I'm not going to spoil anything, obviously, but that's like baseline, right? In the movie, you get introduced to Simon. He is one of the people from Eden, and he's being convicted for the attack on Filament Station. And that's pretty much it. Like, that's all. Like, that's not even really spoilers, because, like I said, like, I think you play as one of the people that is convicted for that. Because that it says in one of the logs in the games that those people that attacked on Eden, some of them are doing those, like the COI, when they convict people, they just have them do like community service stuff, obviously to a larger degree, like, for example, go in the Iron Lung and go on a blood ocean. So basically that's the general plot of the movie. So when I went in, I barely knew anything. I'll be honest. The only thing I knew was submarine named Iron Lung in a blood ocean on a moon. Quiet Rapture. That's pretty much all I knew. I was like, okay, that's all I need to know. I went with my fiance, and oh man, she did not understand a damn thing. She left and she's like, I don't know what just happened. And I'm like, I'll explain it to you, because I was able to understand some of everything. Like, I was like, okay, like I can piece these together. Like, I've read and I've played and I've watched like Lovecraftian kind of stuff, which that kind of piece of media never like tells you exactly what is going on, and you kind of have to piece together what it exactly is. So I basically explained it to her. I obviously can't, explain to you guys, because that would be spoiling, given that the movie apparently is going to be still in theaters for another week, so I don't want to, give out any spoils. But basically what I'm here to tell you is that don't go into the movie expecting to know exactly what happened. Expect to go to the movie and leave asking more questions than you had when you initially went. And that's the whole point. You're supposed to go in not not know much about what's up, because if you've played the game full through and you know the whole lore, obviously the game itself's not going to give you every answer. It's still gonna seem a little, confusing. And I feel like the movie is not completely like copy paste verbatim for the game. I could be wrong. I think the Lovecraftian theme is from the movie itself. I don't think that that's a lot of from the game. I think the game's more of like, what's it called? It's more of like a horror of a higher being rather than, or a more powerful being, I guess. Because I don't think it's a higher being. Like, I don't think you're playing the game being like, oh my god, it's like a godlike being. No, it's more like, it's like the people that are afraid of the ocean. Like, you don't know what's down there. Like, it's kind of the same idea. Like, I wouldn't say it's Lovecraftian where it's the horror of the unknown and the incomprehensible. Or maybe it is, but I feel like the movie really gave the idea of that, where you don't know what the antagonist is entirely. Like, you don't know if the antagonist is a person. You don't know if it's a monster or whatever. Like, I like that idea, because then you kind of think like, to what extent can this antagonist go? Like, what did their powers go? And like, what is happening due to the effects of the antagonist, and what could be in the main character's head, or what could be a different element to the story that we don't know. Like, we don't know if the blood ocean is associated with the antagonist. Not necessarily. Like, that's a question up in there where it's like, is the blood ocean part of the Quiet Rapture? Like, what's up? Like I said, not going to spoil. So that's generally what my experience was, and what to expect. So I'm going to give you a breakdown of I guess what the common pros and cons are and what I think of it. So what the reception has been recently, it's been mixed. People are praising it because of, the whole horror element, that it's been done well, and that, the psychological horror as well in general, that people think that that's kind of the whole leading part of it, that they really like seeing what's going on with the main character mentally, and it really kind of makes you feel a part of them in a way. They also praise the production quality, given that it's a budget of under $3 million, which it ended up getting a box office hit of I think it was 21 million worldwide in the opening weekend, which is pretty cool. I'll honestly say that's pretty cool. And given the fact that in North American alone was like almost 18 million in total. So 3 million everywhere else, 18 million in North America. That's pretty crazy. So that's generally the reception. They think that, for production quality, for horror elements, it's great. And I think that the main disadvantages that the movie has when presenting to some people is the fact that you don't go into the movie expecting Lovecraftian horror. When you watch the trailer or when you hear about it in the plot wise, you kind of go in and you're like, okay, so I'm going to see like a badass movie about a guy in a submarine battling this big ass monster, or like, it could be something in that vein, right? You don't go in thinking like, oh, this guy's going to have like the psychological break, and like I said, I can't really spoil anything, but it's kind of implied in the trailer that he's kind of, psychologically goes down a little bit, as in one of the trailers, his lines like, I just want to live. Is that wrong? Like he gets to a breaking point, I guess you could say. But that doesn't really imply anything. It's kind of open-ended to say. But like I said, yeah, you don't go into the movie expecting to leave with more questions, right? You go into the movie thinking you're going to see Markiplier and some cool horror stuff. Sorry, my cat just jumped up on me. So the huge negative reception has to do with that. It's the lack of expectation of Lovecraftian horror. It's the fact that you're not going to know, and that's the whole point. It's scary because you don't know and you can't understand, right? As well as the pacing. People don't like the pacing a lot, which I don't personally understand. When you first go watch the movie, within the first maybe 10 minutes, and I could be exaggerating with that much time, you immediately get an introduction to the antagonist, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know if there's one or two. That's the whole point. I don't know how many antagonists are in it, or if they're the same thing. But you get introduced to the main bad thing, I guess. Which that is where, when I've listened to like Moist Critical, and I've listened to, general articles or stuff like that, and I don't watch a lot of people that do movie reviews or has already made one. But that's what I'm hearing. What I'm hearing is that, so within the first 30 to 40 minutes, according to other people, he's just doing chores, doing whatever, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not like that, I can assure you. The pacing, yes, slows down a little bit, but that's the whole point. In the start of the movie, I find that the pacing is amongst the fastest, which obviously is going to sound bad when everyone else is saying that it's slow. But it really is the fastest. In the first 30 to 40 minutes, you get introduced to all of the characters, including the antagonist. You get the general exposition, it's very vague. And then in the second half, you get more of the exposition with, flashbacks and stuff like that. And kind of more reflections and everything. That's, how that is. And that's what the actual pacing is, I find that in the middle point of the movie, I think this was about the middle point, you do get a lot, like, obviously, if you've played the game, the whole game is about you going through this blood ocean, taking pictures. So, obviously, he doesn't direct the movie to be like, okay, well, start of the movie is just going to be you playing the game, or him playing the game, essentially. No. He goes to like a couple spots and takes pictures. And then that's it. He doesn't go to every spot on the map and takes pictures. He probably does in the movie, like, canonically, but you don't see him do all of that. Instead, you see him take a couple pictures, and then the story moves on. And then in the middle point, where it's kind of a whole mystery, where he's trying to figure something out, then there's the whole thing of him trying to guide his way through. He gets lost, but that's the whole point. Like, he gets lost, and you have to experience that with him. You get to see him fail at things because he's not a perfect protagonist. He's not a hero. He is someone that did something wrong and is trying to redeem himself. He's not going to be able to do everything perfectly. So you get to see him and his flaws, and obviously his navigational skills, and I really appreciate that. That's why I personally think that the pacing is fine. And yeah, maybe midway through the pacing slows down a little bit. Yeah, because you get the whole thing with him trying to navigate his whole way through the parts that aren't even part of the map, because that's, like I said, that's not much of a spoiler. I'm really keeping it as vague as possible, but that's kind of what I mean, because obviously, yes, he wouldn't get lost if he was on the map. That wouldn't make any sense. But yes, him getting lost is an element, but it's not a huge element of it, like I said. But you do get to see that for a solid probably 20 minutes, where you get to see him try and find his way back, try and get back into communication. And that is probably why people don't like it, because the pacing is so slow. It doesn't immediately go from action to action. And I think that's mainly because people and their attention spans are not built for movies like this anymore. Like, you've seen movies, recently, and it's constant. It's either important exposition or important story being dumped on you, or it's action scene, or it's romance scene. It's always something that is very crucial to the story always happening. Whereas I feel like Mark really kind of helped make I would say like a regression, but in a good way, back to how stories were told, 10 or 20 years ago, which I greatly appreciate. There's movies that just have to do with being a slow burn, and that was popular. Slow burn movies where you don't get to see the antagonist until the end of the movie, or you don't get to know exactly what the antagonist is, or it's a psychological horror in another way. And like, psychological horrors now are more about the breaking of the psyche of the main character, and rather what the viewer can even understand, because I feel like a lot of psychological horror, and I love psychological horror, mind you. I am a lover of that kind of stuff. And you have stuff like Channel Zero, or like you have From. Those are just two recent kind of stuff that I can think of. I know there's another series, I just can't think of it. But you have that kind of stuff, and it's like From, I guess you could say, is more in a better vein, because I feel like that is more of an unknown. You don't get the exact answer of what the horror is. And Channel Zero, I feel like there's a lot of good stuff about Channel Zero, mind you. And this is my kind of like comparison, because Channel Zero is about a lot of like beings that are of higher power, and that's the whole horror behind it, right? You have like for example, that one plot of, if I remember, it is Channel Zero that this is, of these like cannibals that have eternal life because they make sacrifices and stuff like that. I feel like they do a decent job at it, but they don't do a great way of showing the how psychologically breaking it can be for experiencing those sorts of things. Like when it has to do with things that should not exist, the character should experience a lot of psychological damage. You can't just, like, for like zombie apocalypse movies or supernatural movies, you can't just like throw that in and they're like, oh my god, okay, that's real now. No, like, unless they're preparing for the apocalypse or they're preparing for the end of the world or are crazy people that are, believing in ghosts, which is, might sound common, but it trust me, people who think they are that would freak the hell out if they saw an actual ghost or a zombie or something like that. We need to see more representation of people actually going insane because of horror. And they do it, like, there is this one series. Okay, so I just looked it up because I forgot the name. But the series is called Them. Them is honestly a great show, and I really can't wait to see what they will do next with it. But Them is a show, it's mainly about African American experiences and the break of the psychological mind of these supernatural elements that also have to do with them. And if I remember correctly, it's either the first season or it's the second season that there's a specific one. It's in the early 1900s, if I recall correctly. It's this black family that buys a house. And this, I feel like, is a very good representation of the break of the human psyche. There's a whole thing with the white people in the neighborhood that hate them and are trying to get them out by doing whatever possible. And you get to see the mental damage that happens with that. And all the while they're experiencing that, they're experiencing something supernatural. And then you get to see each character experience that break in a different way. You get to see the younger sister and her thinking that a character from her book is real, but it's actually a ghost. And then you get to see the older sister who doesn't want to be black because she's being bullied. So she goes through a psychotic break in that way. You get to see the mother who in some way also goes through her own regarding, I think it was like protecting her family, or no, because that's the father. The mother goes through her own thing that it's like possessed by they're all like possessed by the ghost in a way as well with the psychotic break. But she like wants to kill her family, and then the father wants to protect his family in a violent way. Like they all go their own psychotic break, which I love. I love the idea of them showing how each person in the family can react a different way to trauma and to something supernatural, because they don't immediately accept the fact that the supernatural is real. They think that it's the reality, the real, what should be real that is happening. They whenever something supernatural happens, they think it's the white people because the white people are doing something wrong. And then when something supernatural happens with the white people, or even an external thing happens with the white people, because there's a whole thing with that has nothing to do with them, they blame it on the black people. So there's a whole thing about that where even the white people, you're getting to see their psychological break due to something either external from the story, which is there to purposely divert you because there's a wolf in sheep's clothing kind of idea. You get to see the internal life of those people, even though they're not the main characters. You know, they are technically the secondary antagonist, but you still get to see their experiences and what happens with them, as well as, you know, the psychotic break of their their reactions to what the black family is retaliating with, right? Because they go to extreme extents to some degree, and the black family will do what they can to retaliate as well, which you kind of get left in an open end area where you're like, okay, well, like, where is how far does the supernatural thing go? Like, is it just the family? Like, what's going on with that? Because sometimes, you know, the white people, sorry, go to such extreme extents that you're like, there's no way like a rational human being would do that. But then you kind of think like, this is like good psychological horror, because that is like probably what they would actually do back then. Like, it's the horror of both supernatural and reality, and I really like that. And you kind of get mixed up between what is what. And as far as I can remember, when it comes to these, this horror show specifically, and Channel Zero, because I think Channel Zero does a decent job at it, but I feel like Channel Zero does too much trying to make the characters used to it or understand it, when they should be freaking out a little more. Like, the characters in Channel Zero don't usually go insane. Like, for example, in Channel Zero, there's a whole season about a haunted house that is real, and when you go in there, it's an alternate reality with these like doppelgangers and stuff. They don't do a great way of portraying how crazy that can be. Because one of the characters, her dad died, and then they create her dad, and then she wants to stay there. Where I feel like when your dad died, and then you see him again because the house created your dad, I feel like you should freak the fuck out. Like, I feel like that should be like a thing where you go, holy fuck, that is my dad. Like, she does freak out the first time he shows up, but when he's there and he's like loving and stuff, she pretty much, I mean, like I said, there's the odd here and there where like she does freak out a little bit and not trust him, but it's not like you see the break and being like, oh my god, my dad's alive, like this doesn't make any sense. It's more of like oh my god, scary, like I don't want to be there, I don't want to see you because you're my dead father. Like, there's a difference between a reaction to how scary something will be and how mentally breaking something will be. Like, when you see, you know, zombie movies, when you see ghost movies, when you see that kind of stuff, there's a lot of like, you know, characters reacting in a way that it's like, oh my god, and then that's pretty much it, you know. And I feel like that's not a great, like, good portrayal of that. And I feel like it was really flawed, obviously, back then when it came to, like, you know, people not understanding how to write that properly. I mean, maybe, you know, you had Edgar Allan Poe who would write, you know, good mental or psychological horror, but not in the same way, obviously. But I feel like a lot of movies didn't really portray that well, but there are a lot that do. There are a lot that do show that when there's a thing that exists that you never could have imagined that exists, it is a lot scarier, because then you have to ask yourself, what else is real that I didn't think was real? If zombies are real, to what extent does that go? You know, are zombies real because of science? Because if that's the case, what else could be real regarding scientific stuff, right? Or if it's supernatural, if ghosts are real, then that means God is real. That means hell is real and heaven's real, and like all that is real. And obviously, like I said, there's a group of people that might not freak out about that, but there is a group of people that kind of would, that they would be like, oh my god, like that is like proof. Like this isn't like a belief thing, this is proof. Because if ghosts are real, obviously there's an afterlife. And then you freak out. You go to some degree, like if ghosts are real, then does that mean demons are real? Does that mean, angels are real? Does, like, it kind of goes to some, when it comes to that kind of horror, when it comes to a like supernatural horror, because obviously there's a whole vein of horror that doesn't need to include that. There's, slasher horror. Okay, sorry, my camera decided to shit itself, so I'm using my other camera, which is obviously not much different. I kind of lost my train of thought there. But basically, what I just wanted to finish off with was that when it comes to, supernatural horror, and kind of things that didn't exist, there should be more of a representation of the mental break and the fear of the fact that, to what extent. And that is kind of Lovecraftian in a way. That Lovecraftian is, it's a horror of what you don't know, of what you can't understand. And I feel like when it comes to zombies and when it comes to ghosts and when it comes to aliens especially, it should always be an underlying horror of to what extent does this go? If zombies are real, to what extent? If ghosts are real, to what extent? And if aliens are real, to what extent? Obviously, there's a more broad range, but those are the three things that I can think of that are most popular nowadays, where there should be a more horror of that instead of, Supernatural, as great of a show as it is, it doesn't do a great representation of the mental break. And I mean, yeah, like, Sam and Dean are experienced and stuff like that. And there's been a time maybe they used to be crazy, but, when it comes to its side characters, they don't do a great idea with that. Like, they don't do a great job with portraying these side characters as scared of the fact that those are real. They just kind of like, they freak out for a moment and then they're like, okay, all right. And then they straighten the hell out. I feel like a lot of these horror adaptations or general like media, because, games do that too, right? And books maybe also probably do that too. Books probably do it more because there's more books than movies or games. It's the easiest thing to do, kind of. But I feel like that happens way too much. Like, we should be able to see, the horror behind that and what we don't know, right? And that's a huge thing. I feel like The Walking Dead does it well to some degree here and there because we get to see the mental break of a few people, but I feel like some of them, like, the reason why we don't see it is because we're being introduced to them when they've already experienced that and they're already over that point. But when it comes to, like, the main character Rick Grimes and him experiencing that, it's kind of like he could probably make the excuse in his head, like, oh wow, I've probably been sleeping for a long time. Like, this probably just happened out of nowhere. And it was probably like a dream situation where he kind of doesn't know what's going on. But then there's the death of his wife with his child, and that kind of drives him into a crazy edge. Like, we do get to see a lot of that, especially with the main character. And I think that The Walking Dead is one of the best for showing mental breaks in the zombie apocalypse. But yeah, like, to kind of round myself back around, just to finish this off, Iron Lung does a great way of showing that, of showing, the main character go through that, where he, you're in that sort of universe where they know about interplanetary travel and stuff like that. But then once you get introduced to this huge thing that he doesn't know about. He freaks out. He wants to leave. And when he can't leave, he has to endure. But obviously, he doesn't want to be there. So, at the end, I feel like obviously I missed a psychological step in his brain, because the ending mentally doesn't make much sense to me. I figured the character would freak out more, but maybe I missed a point where, maybe he accepts that all this is real and then moves on, and maybe it makes more sense. But I feel like because the movie is set to be within, I would say he's supposed to be in the span of one day, but the fact that there's a whole time skip, which that doesn't spoil anything, it's just there's a time skip at one point. Apparently it's with days, I think. It was days. So maybe not, But I guess maybe with the amount of maybe he was just, overflowed with that information, that he just kind of goes like, whatever, man. I just, fuck. There's to an extent to where someone can just be overstimulated with so much information that they just kind of go like, you know what, fuck it. Like, I don't care what's real anymore. Like, obviously, other shit's real. Like, that's another point to which people can go, or they just go insane. I don't think that the main character in Iron Lung goes insane necessarily, but I do think that he tries to be a hero to redeem himself, and I feel like he takes that far, like very far. Like he's doing what he can to make what's right. And yeah, I want to say, it does portray, mental breaks. It portrays the fear of the unknown and what possibly could be out there. And also kind of shows a good sense of claustrophobia. Like, he's in a submarine the whole time. That's all you get to see. Pretty much all you get to see. Like, there's so many good elements about that. And I feel that a lot of media needs to do more of that. Obviously not just making movies about being a submarine, but making more movies about, or just, making adaptations or stories about, being placed in a universe that you don't know what's going on, right? And, like I said, when it comes to zombie apocalypse stuff, there's not a lot of media that shows the start of these zombie apocalypse. Usually get thrown into it out of nowhere. Like, it's just like, yeah, this has been happening, but the main character was in a coma, or, the main character was away for a while. Like, I guess Fear of the Walking Dead kind of shows it, but, I guess in a way, some zombie media can get away with that because they think like, oh, it's a virus, and it kind of is. And maybe that's why people don't go through a lot of psychological breaks, because it's a slow burn of it, where it's like you get to see one zombie, but they're not as, rotted looking. They're fresh. So it's like, oh, like it's a virus that makes people want to eat other people, which, obviously, yes, that's real. That makes sense, right? I feel like that's a good excuse, but when it comes to supernatural, and it has to do with ghosts and demons, I feel like there's not a huge way of slow burning that. It's a lot of, okay, now hold on, that's proof of so many things in the world, oh my god. And then when it comes to aliens, there's no slow burn to that either. It's no slow burn. There's aliens now, oh my god, there's life everywhere, somewhere else. Like, then there's the whole thing of, oh my god, how many like different colonies are there, and once we get to see the abilities of these aliens, what can these things do, right? Like, obviously, if it were just other humans, then it's like, okay, well, that's kind of cool. But if it was like a group of aliens that have like telekinesis and shit like that, like, it's like, okay, well, if these guys have telekinesis, then what the fuck do the other ones have, right? What made them have telekinesis? Like, I feel like there's a whole lot of avoidance of showing the psychological side of that kind of stuff. Even if it has to do with like slashers. Like, slashers kind of have more psychological. Like, you get to see Halloween and what psychological damage that can do to the main character. Scream, kind of. I think Scream's not that much into that. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I feel like, does a great way of showing that. But yeah, like, that basically is what I kind of want to talk about. Given that I don't really give my insight about horror movies a lot, but I love horror movies, and I would love to make more videos about this when I, have the production budget to make actual videos about it. I just kind of want to sit down and talk about it for a little bit. Obviously, like I said, camera is not the same, microphone's not the same, place is not the same. Obviously, a lot of things are going to be changed. You're going to see, like, first of all, I want to get my camera and my microphone back as soon as possible so we can get back onto some degree. And then, of course, getting a better set. Even if I just use a blank wall, that's fine. But I'll try and make videos as soon as possible. As of recording this video, I'm still considering when I should start streaming again to kind of keep up on that consistency with my channel, because my channel hasn't died, just I haven't been making videos a lot. I really do wish I could, but unfortunately that's not an option. I just can't. I mean, like, I would, but it wouldn't look the same, right? So yeah, that's everything. That's all I just wanted to talk about. Iron Lung and what it compares to other horror media, right? And yeah, just give you a little small update to what's going on, as it's already month 2 in 2026, and I still haven't posted anything really. But yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and check out the Discord, as, it has been dead for a bit because, like I said, haven't been doing anything, but I'm working on it. And of course, I'll be going back to streaming soon, so don't worry about that. And yeah, see you in the next video or live stream. See ya.